Hey, it's Empress Rose. Welcome to our collective reading for the week, for whatever week you find this. So to get us started, I was checking out my scrying ball and I saw just this classic image of a witch on a broom in front of the moon. She's kind of got some hair flowing, and this one it might be a little bit of blonde hair. I'm not sure, but there's this strong sense of movement, and then it flickered between that and like another owl flying. But so there could be flying involved, like not like you flying, but like airplane flying or something like that for some of you. But there's definitely just movement. It might be, I want to say, psychic movement or intuition, having to deal with being able to see something clearly, some kind of movement very clearly. So I love the classic witch on a broom. The moonlight. All right, let's start. Well, not start. We'll continue on with this reading with these Dreamscape Oracle cards. Are we going to continue on with the reading with the Dreamscape Oracle cards? Okay, maybe we're not. All right, moving on to, what are these ones called? I forget. Dream Weavers. That was too much of a chunk. That was like 10 cards. A little more specific, please. Anything else? Just one so far. Okay. Okay. Messy little, oh, messy indeed. Oh dear. Okay. Well, this is kind of cool. As the Weaver's Way is true. Here we have some horses playing soccer. But it's all about movement, right? We have the moon here and then just this movement. So one step in front of the other is basically how this goes with this one. One step in front of the other. Well, I feel like these horses are playing soccer with the moon. But movement. We got a horse last time too. Movement. On some sort of path. You're already on a path. And you're moving along that path. You're in the flow. You're already like in the river that you're floating down, and you're just going to continue moving. So there's like this continuation aspect, there's a movement aspect, and there's a one step in front of the other aspect to this. So just keep going along the path. There's not a huge deviation that needs to happen right now. There's not dramatic action that needs to happen right now, but we're going along the path here. So, and along this path, when storm spirits play, so there may be a storm. This can be a very literal thing. And it may be kind of fun to navigate some difficulties. Does that sound right? Yeah, I think we can like navigate difficulties with a sense of adventure, with a sense of fun. So there's this playfulness, but then there's also the storm here. So this can also be about not being afraid of conflict, like not going and stirring crap up, but also just like being who you are, not avoiding conflict, saying what it is that you need. If you have dietary restrictions and you go out to eat, feel free to mention that. Don't be afraid of, telling the staff there what you need. Don't be an asshole, but also don't be afraid of that. Like, it's your body, you're paying to put food into it. So mention that. Like, that's not what's happening, but that is an example of not being afraid of conflict, not being afraid of stepping on toes, and not being afraid to be who you are and to have your opinion, even if it conflicts with other people's desires and what they would like to do. So along the way, I think there's going to be storm spirits play. So I think there's a sense, though, of a playful engagement in conflict. I mean, it could even be like the same competitive competition that we were talking about last week too, as far as like playful competition or games where the goal is to win and playful competition. But there's two different notes, and there's a sense of playing them together and creating harmony. But in order to get there, we can't be afraid of our own note and afraid of our truth and afraid of saying our truth. So don't be afraid of conflict. You don't need to go stir it up like for sport. Oh, sport. That was the word I was thinking of. Sports. You don't need to go stirring it up for sport, but there's a sense of not being afraid of it either, and being able to say, this is what I need, this is what I want. And starting from there, right? Not pre-compromising ourselves before we even engage with another. So along this path that you are already on, and you're going along step by step, don't be afraid to say what you need. Don't be afraid to have to have some conflict. But there's a playfulness about this. Like, I find storms to be really delightful and fun. It's one of my earliest memories of just, they're so exciting and they're so interesting and they're so fun. So I have a lot of great memories of having a lot of fun in storms. And then this one, all the shoes fell from the sky. Again, this is, don't be afraid, don't be worried. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, waiting for something else bad to happen, waiting for the next crisis, anticipating crises, like anticipating issues. But that's why we're here. Like, don't be afraid to say what you need, because you might be anticipating issues. You might be, I love how this shoe is a skunk, like a stinky, stinky shoe. So yeah, all the shoes fell from the sky. Try not to borrow trouble, and that can really actually limit, how truthfully you show up in a situation. It's because you're worried about the outcome. You're worried this won't go well. You're worried, if you say you need, substitute in your meal, that the wait staff's going to, well, I'll substitute that with some loogies. Like, don't be afraid of what can happen if you speak up and say what it is that you need here. So yeah, not being worried about conflict and not being worried about some negative fallouts from that. And that's sort of the next step on some sort of path that you're already on, that there might be some, fallout. That's what I want to say. Don't be afraid of the fallout. Okay. Now they wanted to talk. Let's see here. I'm going to put it over here so I don't. The word, interesting. I want to say I'm seeing contracts, but this could also be like writing, co-writing, like journaling, but a book, some very concrete writing. That's so fascinating. It's written down. In college, part of my degree program was studying sort of the interaction between literate cultures and pre-literate cultures, where they didn't have like a writing system and paper. And, the paper-based cultures could always be like, look, you signed this, so it's true. And there was like, I want to say paper supremacy. There was this, throughout history, there's been this clash of the papered cultures and the non-papered cultures, or the script cultures, where we write stuff down and keep historical documents, and then sort of the pre-historical document cultures, and the power of those documents. So I guess with the other cards on the table, I'm seeing something that if there is conflict this week, document it. I mean, just from like a management, human resources perspective, it's really hard to take complaints seriously if they're not documented, if you don't have examples of what happened, if you don't have. So I know that sounds really paranoid, but you'll find that's what they need in order to action on something. If you had like a doctor that missed something, write down, your experience, not to make you paranoid, but there's some conflict here, and then we get word. So it's almost feels like, write it down, document it, even just for your own sake and safety, and just to make sure that you documented what happened to you, you know, as close to the date as possible, so that you can have that as a reference. And if you need documentation, we do live in a document supremacy society. So whoever wrote more stuff down usually wins. So if you're writing stuff down, so anyway, if there's a conflict, maybe this is just a note for somebody. Take a note of it. This is a note. Take a note. Take a note. Yeah, so writing is important in this situation. And then octopus multitasking. Or maybe I want to say fingers in lots of pots. Multitasking. But there's also this sense of octopuses, you know, like in this sort of card realm, they have, you know, it's always multitasking. They have 8 tentacles that can be doing different things. But my understanding of an octopus is they can be very single-minded in their pursuit. And when all 8 of those tentacles go into one situation, the octopus wins. So like suctioning on to something, not letting go of something. And maybe if you aren't able to let go of some conflict, you know, and move on and, you know, just release your mind of some conflict. That's what I'm seeing here with the octopus. Suctioning on to something. I'm not seeing it as multitasking here. I'm seeing it as a very single-minded suctioning on to something. Maybe write it out, write it down just for your own sake to help you release. You know, if you want to burn it, you can. I never do, but, you know, to release it. But something that you may have, a conflict that you may have suctioned onto. And the thing is, these conflicts just take a lot of our energy and our imagination that we could be using for some better things. And they don't necessarily prevent us from moving forward, but they can prevent us from enjoying the movement away from the conflict. Like, you're not in conflict right now. If you aren't, then enjoy that. And we don't need to rehash the conflict. So maybe for some of you, this is about needing to write out your conflict, needing to, you know, even if it's not for official documentation or potential official documentation, like writing it out just to release yourself from something that's sort of like suctioned onto your face and is preventing you from movement. But make sure you write the conflict down from your perspective. You don't have to have everybody's, you might enjoy that actually. That, like, I want to say, like, write it down from your perspective. You don't have to embody everybody else's perspective in your own documentation and your own journaling. But it could be an interesting experiment as well, is to write down a conflict from somebody else's perspective. I would hate that, but it would probably be healthy. So this octopus energy, and it talks to me about emotions too. And you could have emotions all over the map. Yeah, writing it down is going to help you sort it out. I know some people are very anti-journaling. I don't know how people function without journaling, but they think they have to do it every day. You can't just do it when you feel like it. They think they have to write down certain things. Every time I talk to someone who hates journaling, it's because they have this very rigid idea of what it means. It means you do it every day. It means you write this down and you write that down. And I'm a compulsive journaler, but it's when the spirit arises, and so long as I'm having a good time doing it, and about whatever I feel like writing. So that's how I do it, and I enjoy it. But that may not be for everybody. But there's something important about the word. Maybe there is a book that would be helpful for you. All right. Underlying, and I'm using the Good Tarot. So it is always interesting to me when the Good Tarot is the one that pops out, because it's not always really readily available to me as far as intuitive or messages and that kind of thing. The moon. Here we have the moon again, yet again. What can be known, what cannot be known, illusion versus intuition. Yeah, the moon, you know, is reflecting the sun. The sun's the light. The moon doesn't have any light of its own, and it's just reflecting the sun, and it's So it's like we can see the reality of the next day or the reality of something through the reflection of the moon. It's like a mirror, and we're trying to look around the corner at what's coming. It's like those traffic mirrors or like blind corner mirrors, and we're looking at what's coming. We're not looking directly at what's coming, but we're looking at the image of what's coming. And I also find it interesting that the moon was in my scrying ball as well. Very clearly still there she is, the witch in the moon. So there could be something about the moon activity. We just had a full moon, so maybe this is covering a new moon, which is setting intentions. I think of the moon in the tarot as like soft, a softer, more natural high priestess. A gentle high priestess. I mean, I know it has illusions and stuff like that, but in this one, it's very much coming in as the gentle high priestess. The young high priestess. The low priestess? No, the young high priestess. Okay. Past, present, inner landscape, what's at issue, environment, to-do list, possible outcome. This is interesting, especially in light of what's already on the table. Okay, in the recent past, we have a tower. This tower this is one of the reasons why this deck kind of throws me a little bit. This tower is very solid. It's not falling apart. It's like a structure in your life. Typically, so the typical thing is a structure in your life that's falling apart, that's outlived its usefulness, that doesn't belong in this world anymore. It's almost like a death card too. It's like something that doesn't quite belong anymore, but it's a structure, and the death card speaks to me more of like internal issues. So this is like a structure in your life. So that's where I want to leave it, actually. A structure in your life. You've built this, you've created this structure, you've created this template. And there's part of it that is very solid and immovable. So even if a crisis were to happen, only part of this tower would be affected. So you've created this stability, and that's just what and it's over these other ruins. There was a tower here. This tower is about the recreation aspect, rebuilding from ruins. So the crisis seems to be in the distant past, and the more recent past has been a rebuilding on a similar foundation or in a similar area of your life. So an area of your life that was wiped out and destroyed, you have rebuilt with the wisdom from that you had gathered after the first building, and with a lot of wisdom. So there's a rebuilt energy here. There's still sort of the ghosts of the past floating around. I mean, it's really beautiful though. There's this new, really beautiful, thoughtful structure that is, but in the middle of that, there's these like ruins, these really beautiful ruins. We don't live in the ruins, but they're around us, and they provide some sort of depth and history. They provide history to where we're at right now. A sense of connection to the past, right? So it's not like a strong severing. It's like there was a building here, there was a castle here, it collapsed. And yeah, because there's like super ancient history, there's medium history, and then there's the current rebuilding of that. But it's all on, the foundation just gets more and more solid, and it's gotten more beautiful. So you've rebuilt something on an old foundation. That's not a bad thing. That old foundation is very solid. This is a great place to build. This is an outstanding location, an outstanding foundation. There's no reason to give up the foundation. but there's a rebuild that's happened. It's already happened. It's in your recent past is the rebuild. Ancient past is the full destruction. Your current situation is strength. Holding your position, not giving up. I feel it's very much about this part of your life that you have rebuilt. I mean, and the strength and the not giving up, maybe at some point you abandoned the site, but you've returned and you've rebuilt on that site. And you are holding strong. You will not be abandoning this site again. You will not be cutting corners. You will not be giving into temptation. You've rebuilt something. It reminds me of like someone who's dealt with addiction issues and, they just passed 5 years and they're really struggling, 5 years clean, and they're really struggling right now, but they're looking at this 5 years and they're like, do I want to redo that? Do I want to go back and, I've done that before. I've made it to 5 years, had a relapse, had to go through the whole process all over again. Do I want to do that again? And they're looking at all that they've rebuilt and just staying strong. No, I don't want to start from scratch again. No, I'm not going to give up on this. No, I'm not. So there's a lot of inner strength. There's a bit of an inner monster, an inner difficulty that's having to be, it could be self-doubt. It could be doubt. Doubts are interesting and good to explore. They're not necessarily places to unpack and live, but there is a challenge here to the stability you've rebuilt, and it could be doubt. It could be something else, a temptation to go back to who you were, or to uphold those ruins, to make the ruins that surround you, and ruin is such an intense word, but I'm speaking, architecturally, they're beautiful. So looking at those things that surround you, and maybe even there might be a temptation to make those bigger and better than your current situation, or to become obsessed with them versus all that you've built and everything that you've put effort into rebuilding. So there is a sense of needing to remain strong. Maybe some things, maybe you're thinking about these past situations and thinking maybe that they were better, but they collapsed, and they collapsed for a reason, right? Because their time was done. Perhaps they were not structurally sound. Perhaps it was just time. Perhaps you abandoned them, but you won't be doing that anymore. You're working hard to not abandon what you've made so far. So your hopes, your fears, your inner landscape, 2 of water. You want to connect. You perhaps want to have a conversation. You want to feel a deep connection, an emotionally fulfilling connection with somebody else. This almost looks like you've built the house and you're waiting for someone to move in. Or you've recreated your home and you're waiting for somebody to come and join you in it. You're seeking understanding. You're seeking a close relationship with somebody. 2 of water is typically soulmate, but it's very much about, it could just be a moment, just really wanting to connect with somebody. Maybe you are missing somebody from the past, from the distant past, but you are staying strong in your present, but it is taking some strength. And perhaps connecting with someone in your present time would alleviate some of this missing, or some of this nostalgia for a past that's very gone. So there's something about this relationship or wanting to be with somebody, wanting to connect deeply with someone. And it's taking a lot for you to like hold your position. In your current, or your, what's that issue here is patience in reverse. You're needing to wait. There's impatience, though. This is why it's strength. They're getting impatient about something. Like, you've built the structure and you would like the people to move in or whatever. It's like your treehouse collapsed in a storm, and then you rebuilt the treehouse and you'd like your friends to come to the treehouse now. They should come to the treehouse. And you're getting impatient with the process. Where are they? What's going on? Either you're impatient or somebody else is impatient. I think this impatience could be about this thing where you like, is this coming? Is this happening? Everybody said they would come to my new house if I, for the housewarming party, but I'm not really seeing that. Like, it's like that moment before the party starts where you're like, are the guests coming? Nobody's going to be early. Okay, I accept that. Is anybody going to arrive? And then the first person arrives and you're like, I swear there are more people coming. You're just the first. But are there more people coming? Is this going to happen? Somebody's getting impatient, and it could be having you doubting your intuition. There's an impatience, and that's also the strength card coming in here. These two doing a little bit of battle here. Not doing battle, but the impatience and the strength that's required to force yourself to remain patient during this situation in which something is not moving as fast as you wanted it to. Something's maybe on hold, on pause. Somebody here is having to wait, and they are not enjoying it. Then in your environment, we have call. This is judgment. So maybe you're getting a phone call. I mean, this deck, like I'm saying, is very different, but a call here, I mean, the call to action. Maybe this would be someone calling you. You're getting impatient. We have the word, so somebody could be reaching out to you, and it might not be necessarily a phone call, but it could be email or something like that. But it's the call to action, the call to judgment is usually, somebody's making a decision and they're going to tell you about the decision. So a decision, like all the information is in. This is like a judge. Well, it's judgment. So this is like a judge that's going back to their chambers with all the arguments, all the information that they need. Maybe it's a jury. They're going back. They're going to discuss it, weigh it, figure out what's going on in here. And they're going to let you know what the decision is. So somebody that's not you is in some kind of decision-making mode here, and about something that already happened. It sits underneath this tower, which means that it seems to be like, I almost want to say, the metaphor I'm getting is that you have submitted your new home that you built sort of next to incorporating elements of your old house, and you've submitted it to like Architectural Digest, and they're making a decision about whether to feature it or not. It's something along those lines. Like this, you've already submitted something that you've sort of rebuilt, and someone's making a decision. It could be taking them a lot longer to make this decision than you think. Like, what's to decide? Like, do you want my thing or me or what? Do you want this or not? What is to decide? And maybe you thought, like, for sure, like, I'm totally going to get in. This is exactly their cup of tea. This is going to be perfect. And now you're maybe really doubting, like, what did I build? Was it good enough? Or was it not good enough? What's going on here? You could be really doubting your what seemed like a sure thing and a good thing. But someone's making decisions and they're going to be letting you know. Current situation is justice, or not current situation. This is your to-do list. It sits under your current situation. To be honest, to be clear, to weigh things out. What's interesting is we have what's typically called judgment and justice. Both of these seem to have some sort of legal aspect to them. And then we also have the word here in discussing conflict and needing to record and write down different things. But also not to worry. Like part of the writing down is so that you stop worrying about it. So you can be like, okay, I documented it. I can always refer back if I forget what happened or what's going on. So your job is to be fair here, to clearly communicate, to be honest, to think about the consequences, to think about cause and effect, and maybe the effect that you'll have on others. Yeah, there's a sense of just needing to be aware of cause and effect, aware, and that's for others too. When people treat you poorly, be aware of cause and effect. I mean, you don't like get revenge, but that's not what justice is. We have a different word for justice than we do for revenge. So justice is more about being fair to yourself, being fair to the situation. It's not necessarily always, I mean, compassion should be involved in justice, but at the same time, it's not necessarily like this, the kindest thing we've ever experienced. Is justice, not compassion, not revenge. There's a reason why this was a word that is not the same as those other words. And so there's something about the truth that you need to speak, but you need to be fair. But fair does not mean forgiving. I mean, their forgiveness is very important, but fairness and justice need to be part of that process, right? I'm thinking of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in South Africa after apartheid. So it was part of a process of forgiveness, but there was some fairness, but there could no longer be any retribution or revenge or anything like that. And the fairness was in being able to say your piece and being able to speak about what happened, and be heard and feel heard. And that was as much justice as, well, maybe there was more. It's been a while since I studied that or read up on that. There's some good books about it. So, I'm going to say like there's this type of justice, restorative justice is a pretty cool concept too. So we're not necessarily seeking revenge. We're also not letting people off the hook. Like there are consequences for people's actions. When people treat you poorly, there's going to be some consequences, and that might be your distance. You may be craving some closeness with this person, but you may need to institute some distance. So, but being fair and being clear, not avoiding conflict, right? And being fair and being clear. And also when it comes in your to-do list, it can be about you having a role in that. You having a role in creating justice and creating fairness for other people, for other situations in your life. And so I think a key part of this fairness is you voicing something and not necessarily being very afraid of you having some courage, I think. And I think the Strength card can speak to that too. Having some courage to speak up and say what you've experienced. And being fair to other people in a situation as well. Like fair, not a doormat. And then possible outcome. This is really interesting. Temptation. This is the Devil card. Wanting more than you need. And we got the Strength card, so we were already talking a little bit about temptation. So, this could be an ongoing situation in which you are very tempted to excess. I think with the Strength card here in the mix, it means it's something that you've already done business with and already had to fight and get out of. Temptation, it also seems like it's a devil card, which is also our contract card, things that are easy to get into but difficult to get out of. So this whole bottom row, to me, can have some very legal, and then with the Word document here too, can have some very legal aspects to it, or some very technical aspects, or very, yeah, we have a judge, we have justice, and then we have temptation. You may sin again, or somebody may sin again. But that can also be devil. So in some aspects, this whole bottom row has some sort of legal aspect to it. Contracts, and especially with the Word here, and that was the first thought with the Word, is contracts and legal aspects to it. Make sure you're looking out for your own best interests, also the best interests of any other underdogs in the situation. You might go for something if it's fair enough. But there's also a sense of, there's temptation in the past and temptation in the future. To overindulge in something is just your cautionary statement is being careful of overindulging. And that could be in a thought process, right? We have this octopus, this suctioning. I also want to see the octopus is a little bit greedy and a little bit obsessive and a little bit greedy. So there could be overspending. There could be over accumulation. Too much of a good thing. That's temptation here. It's too much of a good thing. And so you might struggle with that in the future of too much of a good thing. Right. Moderation. Okay. It could be shoes. We have the shoes. Maybe you have a shoe addiction and you're tempted. All right. And auspicious omens. Lucky clover. Find the lucky 4-leaf clover. Know that good luck is on your side. So lucky 4-leaf clover. Oh my gosh, it's March. This is the beginning of March. When I'm doing this is, this is the beginning of March. So this is the Marchiest card there is. And maybe we are talking about St. Patrick's Day with this. So that could be an issue for somebody here. Lucky clover, number 22. So some sort of luck charm, but there's also a sense with lucky clover that there's something very ordinary or that you've, overlooked before in this lucky clover card. So very lucky situation. And then we have Eye of Nazar. See clearly as the forces are conspiring to assist you now. So also people call it the evil eye, which is about like keeping envy away from you. I like that a lot, these two. You being lucky and protected from envious behaviors. The envy of others, conspiring to assist you. All right. And then one last little prayer from the Wild Kuan Yin, sort of close it up. Wrap it up. Trust. That's fascinating. Trust what you feel the divine is communicating to you through the happenings around you. I like this with the moon card here. There's divine guidance in all things if we know how to feel and look for it through the heart without silencing our intuition with logic. Beautiful. So don't silence your intuition. Don't overthink it. Trust your intuition with the moon card right here. That's very beautiful. All right. I hope this was helpful for you. Thank you so much for joining me here, and we will talk again soon.